Hey crafty people! Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Oh, welcome to my channel. In case you're new, what I am doing each month in the year 2026 is picking a craft supply for my stash to focus the month on. And since I like alliteration, I decided to go with Mixed Media May. So today's video, we're going to be looking at all the pastes. These are all my pastes that I have because this is one of those common products you use for doing mixed media projects, is you play with texture paste and grit paste and all the different pastes. So what I want to do today is actually something I've been wanting to do for ages, is we're going to basically swatch out all of the different pastes. And my plan is I'm going to swatch them on white, where I have just a smear of the paste, and then I'm going to do stenciling down the side so we can see the differences between how it just goes on flat and how it goes on through a stencil. And I'm going to just do a little smear on some black so that I can see what it looks like on a black paper. The white paper is Canson XL watercolor paper, which I kind of like for doing mixed media because it's a nice heavyweight paper. It holds up to waters and mediums really well, and it's not ridiculously expensive. It is textured because it is a watercolor paper. This is scrapbook.com's black mixed media paper, which I also like their mixed media papers, and this is completely smooth. I do have some of the white as well, but that's what I'm going to be using for my swatching. I also have off to the side a bunch of other papers that can be used for mixed media, because I figure we'll do the swatching, but we'll also, since we've got all of the paste out, do a few pieces where we just put some paste on through some stencils, and a couple of them we may finish today. The rest may be saved for using later this month, but I figured I got the paste out, I'm making the mess, I might as well do not just a swatch, but something useful. I also have off to the side a dish of water, because you don't want to leave your paste sitting on your stencils, because what will happen is it will end up drying and closing up the aperture, which is the hole in your stencil, and your stencil will become useless. So make sure you clean it off promptly, or you're going to be very, very sad. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to need to move this stuff out of the way so I have some room to work. And yeah, I go a little overboard. And some of these pastes may not work very well because I've had them for years. So some of them may be going in the trash after today's video, because I'm gonna be going, this is also gonna give me a chance to sort through. All right, I want to start with one that I already put behind me. All right, texture paste opaque, texture paste translucent, grit paste opaque. All right, let's start with those four. And I think the way I'm gonna do this so that you're not super bored out of your mind is I will do all of the swatching on the white on camera. I may cut out the swatching on the black because we'll come back and compare them once it's dry. And I am grabbing this 10 Holtz Stampers Anonymous stencil. It's THSM02M, because this is one of his layering stencils, in that I don't know if you can see the indentations. There's like 3 stencils so that you can create like an argyle pattern, but I just want something with a decent size apertures for doing my paste through. So we're going to do that. Let's start with, I've got Distressed Texture Paste Opaque. So that's this jar. And I'm going to grab a palette knife, and we are going to do less of that. put it on, and I'm gonna do kind of thick and then spread it out thinner, just so that we can see what it does. Not quite that thick, or it's gonna take forever to dry. And then I'm gonna put some through the stencil over here. And a tip for applying texture paste through stencils, you want to still be able to see your stencil through it, or it might be a little too thick on there. So we're just gonna spread a little bit more of that out. Now, I am gonna grab, which I should have had this at hand, got a collection of stuff over here. I'm gonna grab maybe a piece of the Canson XL watercolor paper. I'm gonna shift this off to the side. Do that and grab one of my stencils that I have out. And this is a PM Artist Studio stencil, and it's doilies, and it's either style 1 or style 2 because I pulled both those out, and they're fairly new to me stencils, so this is like the first time I'm using them. We're just gonna add some of this through the stencil onto this, and I need to speed up because I don't want my paste getting too dry on that. This may not work out as well as I planned to do both things at once. Let's pull this stencil off, toss it in. I'm gonna clean up. I'm gonna try and clean up. All right, I don't want to put this back into the jar, so I'm gonna grab another piece of something and smear it on. Oh, you know what? We haven't smeared it on the black yet. That's what I'll do. All right, I can clear off the edges. Do that. That I'm getting concerned about. I have a feeling I'm gonna have some issues. With that stuff. All right, set that off to the side. Should have grabbed a paper towel. Let me go do, actually first I want to scrape off a little bit of the paste that I got where I didn't want to. And I did toss this stencil into my dish. Those I'm okay with. All right. Okay. That was texture paste opaque. Let's do the stenciling for pretty much everybody else, so we don't have to worry about it. Texture paste translucent. This jar is almost empty, and I think I have another jar, and so it's a little gloopy. We're gonna come back to that. I am gonna get all of the pastes that are going through the stencil on here. My black is also on the older side, so this is the texture paste black opaque. So it's, ooh, it maybe did. I don't know that this is gonna go on very well. It is dried out. We will give it a try, but that may need, ooh, yeah, no, that is gonna have to go on my need more list. Yeah, that is dried out. Moral of the story, use your paste. I don't think I have another one of these. I'm gonna try and just get a little bit on so I have some idea of what it looks like on my little chart, but yeah, that is, she's dead, I think. Which is a shame because black on black is kind of cool with what you can do with it. I mean, I can kind of force it on and it'll stay on, but it's not creamy like it should be. All right, and then we do have, as you can see, it's like coming out in little chunks. And then I think we can do Crackle paste opaque through this stencil before I have to clean it. Let me grab that. This is very thin. So some things are going to work through stencils better than others. This off. Ooh, I stuck my finger in the top one. I'm going to toss that in my dish of water and come back and put smears of the ones we didn't smear on here. So might as well start with the Crackle paste Opaque. That is way too much of the Crackle paste. So let's even that out and pull a bunch of that off. Let's grab Kraft stock. This is Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous. Let's see what happens if we use this guy. Alright, let's pull that off and toss it into our water. That guy aside. Let's see, we did not do any of the, no, we haven't done that and that on here. Okay. I think I'm not gonna bother doing anything with my texture paste black because yeah, it's good, sadly. So that's going out. All right, we need, got grit paste, texture paste translucent, grit paste opaque we need to do. All right, got that on this guy. So let's, I think I'm gonna grab this, and this is Tim Holtz mixed media heavy stock tag. Let's do some brick with the grit paste. Now, you can apply the paste to pieces without doing it through a stencil, but I kind of want to play with my stencils. Maybe I'll do one where I just add a bit smeared here and there on something to create an interesting background. And you can do all over coverage, or you can go kind of haphazard like I'm doing on this guy. That's gonna be cool when it's dry. Now, if you see some off the edge that you don't want to have hanging off the edge, just come in while it's still wet and do that. Set that aside. Let's just smear some of this onto another piece. Let's grab another piece of the Canson XL watercolor paper. Because what you can do is kind of create interest along the edges. And actually, I'm gonna turn this around because if I want to cut this tag shaped, I don't want to put it up at the top where I'd be cutting it off. Smearing a little bit kind of across the middle. And we'll have a play with this at some point to see what results we can get from it. All right, I'm gonna set that aside. I'm gonna have a bit, oh no, we've got to do, let's do the texture paste translucent. So we've got all of those guys done on the sheet, and I will have a bit of a cleanup because yeah, this is making a mess. That is one thing that definitely happens when you pull out your texture pastes is you make a mess, and like that needs to get cleaned up. All right, let's do texture paste translucent on here. Again, this one is not in the greatest of shape, I'll be honest, because it's old and there's not much left in the jar, so it's a little gloopy. And I thought I had a spare jar of this. I might, you know what? I think I put my spare jars in a different drawer. And I do. I knew I had bought another jar of it because I was running low and realized it. I'm going to open this up so you can kind of see the difference, and we can spread a little bit of this on there too. So as you can see, it's nice and creamy when it's fresh. I'll try and remember to make a note that one is fresh and one is like that's fresh and that's old. Now keep in mind, the thicker you put something on, the longer it's going to take to dry, obviously. I'm gonna set this off to the side for a second. Ew, try not to stick scissors in. And I think what I'm gonna attempt to do now is use up the translucent that I've got. Let's do a piece of black. Set this guy off to the side. I'm gonna need to set something up for drying stuff because I am running out of space. I still got a little bit left in here. Let's grab another one of the Canson XL watercolor pieces, just because that's going to give you a good comparison of it on black versus it on something white. Let's do, this is a Simon Says stamp stencil. I think it's mix and match circles. And I'm just kind of holding it up so that I don't stick it in where I've already stenciled. And I'm having a thought. All right, we're gonna toss that in the water. We're gonna scrape that guy off. Now that's gonna end up resisting ink there, but I'm not gonna be mad at it. All right, this jar I think is officially dead, but thankfully I have a new jar, and I think we'll do one using the new jar, but I want to do something else with it first, the base first. So I'm gonna I've got this out, and we're gonna press it in and clean it off as we're going along. And I don't know that you can see anything just yet, but once it's dry, it should do some cool stuff. And I could pull out some other stamps, but I'm just sticking with this one, and that one I did not do a good job stamping it. But yeah, definitely make sure if you're gonna play around with your stamps in texture paste that you give them a good clean as you are going, and don't let the paste dry on it, or that's gonna make a mess out of your stamp. That one got a little too goopy. Let's try there. Ooh, that one had, I think it reactivated some ink on there. And then one more over here. That one didn't get pressed in very hard, so it did not do anything. Let's try that again. The rocking is not good. The stamping straight down works better, but it should create some more interest when we add inks to these later on. All right, I need to clean up and find myself some space for laying these things out to dry. I gotta pull out a drying rack. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna clean my stamp really well, and then I'll be back. I'm back, I cleaned up. I dried this stencil off after cleaning it up. I did for a few of the stencils, just to make sure I got everything off, scrub them gently with a scrubby sponge. And so let's finish off this sheet. And we are getting cracking, like lovely cracking with the Opaque Crackle paste. Now we've got Crackle paint translucent. This I am gonna apply with a brush because it is much thinner than the pastes, because it's a paint. So let me grab a brush, and I just realized I did not bring back my tray. All right, let me go grab that. I'll be right back. Okay, got my bowl back. All right, we're gonna apply this with a brush. I don't think it's gonna do great through the stencil, but part of why I'm doing the stenciling to the side is to see which ones work well with stencils and which ones don't. I definitely tossed that brush in to sit and dry. All right, let's quickly do the rest of, although I think I've got a lot of paint around the stencil on here. Let me grab another brush and fix that. Just trying to find a good one for doing that. That should work. That one's also going in the dish to soak. Next up, Grit Paste Crypt. This is the tinted stuff that's got like flecks of black in it, and it's really cool, especially for like grungy Halloween-y kind of makes. And this one is an older jar, so it is a little drier than it would be out of a fresh jar, which I have a fresh jar, but this is not dead like the black. It's just takes a little bit more effort to get it to stay put. And then we've got Crackle Paste Translucent. That one's still in good shape. It's nice and creamy. Toss this into my water and do a few pieces with the paste. All right, I had thoughts on what I was going to do through what. I think I want to do the Crackle Paste through this one. Oh, and this piece of paper that I'm putting it on is some Artist Loft. What is it? Is it the mixed media or is it the watercolor? It is. Take that off and toss it in the water, and I can let you know it's the Artist Loft mixed media, which is 98 pounds, and it is a lot lighter than the Canson XL, which is like, I think it's 110 for the Canson XL. So yeah, I wanted to just see how it worked since I have a stash of it. I've been playing with it for doing like inky backgrounds, but I kind of wanted to see how it held up to paste. Let's set that aside. Now, you're better off taking the spare stuff and smearing it onto another piece of paper than putting it back in the jar. Let's grab some random, you know what, it's got collage paper on it. So let's just smear a little bit of this on here. I'm gonna set that aside as well. Next, let's pull out the grit paste and do a piece with that. Oh, and that was another one of the doilies by PM Artist Studio. And this is a tip from Tim Holtz, putting a rubber band because it helps seal the jars a little bit more airtight so that the mediums last a bit longer. And I will tell you in a second what stencil this is. And this is one, when it got released, I was like, ooh, I saw the cool things people were doing with it. Had to get it. This is the first time I'm using it. All right, that was not straight and not evenly spaced as to the edge. So, I don't know, may do some trimming when it comes time. Oh, and the stencil is THMS 59. And I just realized the next step was the Crackle paint, and I tossed both brushes in water. All right, so for the Crackle paint, translucent. Before I do the stenciling on here, I want to do a little background stamping because you'll be able to see it through the stenciling bit because it is translucent. So I have grabbed Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous Ledger Script CMS 241, and I'm going to grab this guy. And the important thing right now to remember is you are going to need to use a permanent ink. So distress inks will end up getting sucked into the paste and tinting the paste. I mean, if you want that look, go for it. But any dye-based distress oxide, because it's a dye pigment mix, ink is gonna get sucked up into your paste. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to decide what color I want to go with. I think I'm gonna go Versafine Clair Monarch. I don't know why, but for some reason this stencil is screaming purple. So I am gonna just do kind of a let's see what we get. Not gonna put it on a block. Doesn't have to be full coverage. We're just gonna stamp it on. And if there's some spots that need some filling in, oh, that got pretty good coverage, though there's nothing down there. All right, so I'm gonna grab my heat tool and dry this off. So it went dark there for a second. I thought, oh no, did I lose power? No, I just accidentally unplugged my lamp. So now that we've got that on, I'm gonna come in. Okay, I had purple on me. Let's make sure it's dry. Okay, it is. I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna put the stencil down. I don't think I want full coverage, so I'm just gonna pick out some spots where I wanna put the arches with the translucent Crackle paint. We're gonna just see how this does. I kind of feel like I probably should pull out a mat for this so that it holds the stencil down better. And you know what, I think I am gonna do that. Good enough, I'm gonna use this. Mostly that I just want the stencil held down well since it's a little wider, and this is not working as well as I would like. All right, we're just gonna give it a go and see what we end up getting. I'm going back in a few spots because generally with your Crackle paste and paints, the thicker it is, the bigger your cracks, the thinner, the smaller the cracks. So that's something to keep in mind. I am gonna go clean this up because I wanna clean off the mat since I got paste on it. And then I will be back and we will try and do the other ones faster because I'm concerned this video is getting way too long. And I failed to mention that the Distress Grit Paste Crypt I think is seasonal. And the ones I'm pulling out now, I've got the Distress Texture Paste Twinkle, Texture Paste Sparkle, Grit Paste Snowfall. Those three are all seasonal as well. And it is getting ready to pour down out there, which is good because we need rain. All right, let's try and do this a little quicker. Apparently, I left crud on the lid before I closed this last time because it did not want to open smoothly. Yep, there's. So that's something to keep in mind when you're closing stuff is make sure you don't have excess paste on the outside of your jar or you might run into some problems. And wow, you might have some noisy backgrounds going on because it's getting ready to come down out there. Not actually used this one before? Oh goodness gracious. No, I did. The lid, the seal thing was just still in place, which I'm gonna keep there because that also will probably help with keeping this from drying out. Although this one's definitely an older one because it's a little gloopy. Let's grab, I've got Crackle Paste White, and that is by DecoArt, and it's really old, so I don't know how well it's holding up. Might be okay. We shall see. It actually feels okay. Let's quickly just do the Liquitex matte gel so I can toss this into the water. Ultra matte gel. Oh, I haven't even opened this one yet. I'm gonna kind of not open it all the way and just pull off some of the medium from the lid. All right. Move that out of the way, and I'll do the black real quick and then decide on some stencils to do some stenciling. All right, I went ahead and did some on pieces we can work on later off camera just because I want to speed up this process a little bit because I'm afraid at how long this video is getting to be. All right, so next we have natural stand glass beads and heavy gloss gel. All right. And you may have noticed I had like cling film on some of these. That's what I used to do to try and help extend the life. I think the rubber bands work a little bit better. But if you do want to use the cling film because you don't want to buy a bunch of rubber bands, which I think you can get at Ranger now, just make sure you press it into whatever paste is left in the jar. Don't just like put it over the top or it doesn't do what it needs to do, which is basically seal in the paste so that it's not getting hit by air, because that's what dries it out. And I just realized I forgot to bring over my whatchamacallit again. All right, glass beads. As you can see, I've got some pressed down in there. And those are both by Liquitex, and I'll add that information back in later. This is golden heavy gloss gel. Liquitex also makes a heavy gloss gel as well. And I expect this to act similar to the Tim Holtz translucent paste, I think. Yes, this one's clear. All right, I'm gonna go clean this stencil off and I'll be back. All right, we're down to the last sheet. We've got 6 more to go. Yeah, I have a lot of paste. I need to use them more. All right, so next up is white flakes, and that's a Liquitex. And oh, I haven't even opened this one. I think as with like the glass bead one that I did, these are not ideal pastes for stencils because they've got too much texture to them. Absorbent ground can turn paper not meant for watercolor into paper you can watercolor on, or like canvas. And that is very, very messy. And I think this jar I may have to put a thing back in because plastic wrap, because I don't think the rubber bands are going to go around that. It's an opaque acrylic primer for water medium. So it's very loose. I probably should use a paintbrush for this, but we're just going to put some down because why not? For some reason I thought this was like thicker, had a little bit more texture to it. And I did use it once and didn't love watercoloring on it. So there's that. Next up we've got Grit Paste Glow, which is a seasonal Tim Holtz product, and it glows in the dark. I don't know how well we're going to be able to see the results on camera, but we'll put a little on. Now, Crackle Glaze should be similar to the Crackle paint, and Oh, yeah, no, this is dead. This has got, it's hard as a rock. All right. No Crackle glaze. That is going out. Fiber paste. And this is a golden product, but I'm pretty sure Liquitex also has a fiber paste. And I don't have a ton left. I used this last year when I was doing the book boxes to create the texture for like the side of the books so that they look like pages and they were super textury. I think I'm just gonna see if I can line that up. And not very well apparently. And clear granular gel, which I think is going to be similar to the Liquitex clear beads. Is that what it's called? Glass beads is what it's called by Liquitex. So let's put some of this on. I think this is going to be another one not ideally suited for going through a stencil because it's got too much texture to it. Alright, I'm going to clean up and I'll be back. Okay, this is like the 5th take I've done for recording this outro. I'm definitely on the struggle bus. I'm trying to keep it short and coherent because this video is running longer than I had anticipated. And I was originally planning on doing some inking of the background pieces that we did during this video, but it's just too long and YouTube won't let me upload things over like 55 minutes. So that's going to be Friday's video. So stay tuned for that video on my channel on Friday. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you will get notified when that video is up. But I will give you a preview of what the pieces I did look like as we're talking about the different pastes. So let's look at our results. Now, one thing I want to point out, I let all of these pastes dry naturally. I just let them sit. But you can use a heat tool in drying your paste, except for the Crackle paste. Do not use a heat tool on the Crackle paste. It won't crackle. So just leave those be. Like, do it in the morning, set it aside, go do other stuff, and come back when it's dry. Don't try drying it with a heat tool. But another thing to keep in mind, if you are impatient and use your heat tool on like your texture paste, it will usually cause the paste to like bubble up. And I tried to demo that on camera, but the one I did was not cooperating and refused to bubble up. So I just edited that part out of the video. Yeah, I've been on the struggle bus. Stay tuned to Friday's video and you can hear all about our adventures with a snake on Sunday. All right, so let's start with kind of the specialty, what I'm calling like the specialty paste. These are seasonal ones from Distress or fancier ones from like Golden and Liquitex that, you know, aren't your base kind of paste. So we're going to talk about Twinkle and Sparkle first. And I think, so the difference is Twinkle is an iridescent glitter in the paste and it's in a translucent paste. Sparkle is kind of like a champagne colored glitter in there. So I think Twinkle works better on a darker colored background and that Sparkle works better on a white background, but that's up to you to decide which you like better. I'm just going to give you a closer look so you can kind of see the glitter. See, I think the glitter just shows up really well there and less so, like, I don't know, I just don't think it looks as good. And that the Twinkle, it really does, you can see the glitter very nicely. I also did these on Kraft. And it's not showing up as well on camera, but I really love how the Twinkle looks on the Kraft. I like how the Sparkle looks, but you can't really see the discrete glitter. Like, it doesn't give glitter effect, it gives sparkly effect. So I like this a lot, and I'm going to do something with it at some point, but it's not quite, you don't get the glitter effect so much as just the sparkliness on the Kraft with that. All right, then we've got the glass beads and clear granular gel and the white flakes. And I was a bit surprised by those because I assumed the glass beads and the clear granular gel were the same, but they're not. So as you can see, the glass beads have little round glass beads in them. The granular has irregular beads in it, clear beads. And then the white flakes, which shows up on the camera better than it does in real life on white, are literally white flakes in a clear or in a translucent paste. Now, I would not recommend any of these for using through a stencil because, as you see, you can't get really a regular coating easily with them. Like, the glass beads are very haphazard. And let me show you it on the black, because that's where, like, the white flakes, I'm like, that is so cool. I so think this would be really neat on, like, a dark background. Definitely going to be playing with that. And then the granular and the glass beads, they kind of disappear. Like, you can feel the texture, you can kind of see the texture, but the actual beadiness of it does not show up on the black so much. My recommendation, they're not necessarily the best for applying through a stencil, but can be really cool on a piece. And stay tuned, I'm definitely going to use the white flakes in something. All right, next in our specialty seasonal release from Tim Holtz is the Distress Grit Paste. And so you've got Crypt, which is a translucent paste with grittiness to it that is tinted, so it's, depending on what you put it on, will impact the color. I think it's kind of like a greeny gray on the white background, and more just kind of like a gray browny color on the black, and you kind of lose the little black specks on a black background. The further you go, the more translucent it is, so that's something to keep in mind. As you layer it up, it becomes a little bit opaque. Snowfall, because it is a clear paste, you get the lovely glittery effects and sparkle on white. It's great for making snow for your Christmassy makes. But on black, it's a little lackluster because it's a clear glitter in a clear paste. It kind of doesn't do much for me on the black, so that's just something to keep in mind. And then also in this group, I would include the Natural Sand, which again, it's clear and it's a gritty paste. It's similar to the Grit Paste Opaque, just clear, and I suspect is similar to, there is a Grit Paste Translucent. I just don't have it because I have a jar of natural sand, so I didn't see any need for getting it. Here it shows up, it definitely has more sparkliness to it on the white, although black does have some. And I usually tint it when I'm using it to make it look more like sand. Then we've also got the fiber paste, which I did, which is a highly textured paste, but it's a softer texture. Like, I don't know, the fibers are bigger than in a grit paste, so it's a different texture. I liked it and used it to create a like aged book page effect on the vignette book boxes I did for Halloween last year. Also in our grit paste, we've got the glow, and let me show you what it looks like because it will glow. So there you go. You can see the glow for that one. And then on the black, it's not showing up as much. I don't think it's gotten enough light to charge it. It was doing better earlier. I think it hasn't gotten enough light, so you need to charge it, like have it under either sunlight or artificial light for it to actually do the glowing. So those are all oh, and I meant to show you, here's my Grit Paste Crypt on a Kraft background. So you can see the background definitely impacts the color of the paste. So keep that in mind when using Grit Paste Crypt. It will be affected by the background. And I did end up finding I had another jar of the black opaque paste. So I did a smear on here and on the black, which obviously you can't really see it because it's against black. And I did do it through a stencil, and I was going for a Christmassy feel, and I think this is giving more Italian flag vibes. So definitely when I go to use it, I'm gonna have to tweak this a little bit. So let's do the Crackle next. So I've got four Crackles that I used. I used the Distress Crackle Paste Opaque, and you can see got some nice cracking on here. Come up closer so you can see better because some of the cracking is hard to see. So got a decent amount of cracking. The thicker it is, the bigger the cracks, the thinner, the finer the cracks. But I actually think the Crackle Paste White from DecoArt cracked better. Like that is some serious crackage. And then the Crackle Paint Translucent, which is the paint, so it's thinner, so there's only so much thickness you can get, but you can see bigger cracks where it's thicker, kind of like little hairline cracks where it's thinner. It's a little hard to see. So that's the translucent paint. And then the Crackle texture paste, I did not get any cracking in my schmear. I got a little bit of cracking in through the stencil. And again, on here, Crackle Paste Translucent, I ain't seeing much in the way of cracking. So I think I like, and there's the Crackle Paint Translucent, Opaque, and then the white by DecoArt. So I think my clear winners are Crackle Paste White and Crackle Paint Translucent over Crackle Paste Translucent and Crackle Paste Opaque. But the Opaque paste is pretty good. The translucent paste I don't think is great. The only difference is with the translucent paint, you're gonna get finer cracks no matter what you do. And there's only so much thickness, like you can't get as much dimension as you could with a paste. And maybe that's the problem, is that I just needed more dimension. I don't know. Was not impressed with the paste, the translucent paste. And here are the pieces we did. So this one I did the paint, and the cracks aren't showing up great, but what I'm going to do is add some crayon to it and push it into the cracks so the cracks will stand out more. But obviously, because it's translucent, you can see the writing behind. This was the opaque paste, and I like how that one came out. That should be fun to play with once I add inks to it. And here's the translucent paste. You can see there is some cracking, but this one just, I don't know if it was the paste or the paper I did it on, or a combination thereof, but you can kind of see, I think, the fact that it like wicked the paint up under the paste. So this isn't paste, or this isn't ink on top of the paste that I put here, but underneath. And this was the Artist Loft mixed media paper. I would not recommend it for mixed media. Absolutely not. Like, what I'm probably going to use the rest of it for is, it does take inks nicely, and it's thinner and lighter in weight than the like Canson XL watercolor paper. So for die cutting inky things, I think I'm going to use this paper to do like inky die cuts, but definitely not for mixed media. It's got some warping going on. It did not work well. It does not like mixed media. So there's that. All right. Now let's go to the grit versus texture paste comparison, because I want to point out the big difference between grit paste opaque and texture paste opaque is, not surprisingly, the finish you get. The texture paste is a smooth finish. Now you can add more texture by like patting your palette knife into it, or paintbrush, or something else to rough it up so that it's less even. But the grit paste has grit already in it. It's like you mixed sand into your texture paste opaque. So that's something to keep in mind. Depending on what effect you want, you're going to either need to use a grit paste or a texture paste for, you know, a smoother finish. The other differences I wanted to talk about is between the opaques and the translucents. So the thing to keep in mind with opaque versus translucent paste is obviously the big thing. Opaque, not see-through. Translucent, you can see through. Which means, for example, with our translucent paint that we use, if you stamp something behind it, you can see through it if you are using a translucent paste. The opaque paste is going to cover it up. The other big difference is, I'm sure you can see, the opaque paste dry matte. So if you want a matte finish, you are going to want to use an opaque paste. Whereas if you are looking for a glossy finish, you're going to go with your translucent paste. And finally, the big thing to keep in mind is when you then ink a piece where you have your pastes on, the translucent paste is going to resist the ink. So you spray ink on top, you're going to be able to, once everything's dry, wipe it off the texture paste translucent. The opaque pastes are going to absorb some of that ink. So you can get some off by rubbing on top, but it is going to essentially stain the paste. So just keep that in mind. Now let me show you like what everything looks like on the thing, because I wanted to point out another thing with the translucent texture paste. The older stuff did yellow. According to the jar for the heavy gloss gel by Golden, it is not supposed to yellow, so that is something to bear in mind. Let's see. I think the rest of the talking we can do with the examples that I've got. So with the translucent paste, another thing you can do is you can stamp underneath and see the stamping, or if you want to do like a dark background but have your stenciled bit be a lighter ink color, what you can do is ink the paper first through the stencil in your light color. In this instance, I use Squeeze Lemonade Distress Oxide ink, and then apply the paste, and then when the paste is dry, apply your dark inks over top, and you will keep the light color of your stenciling. Now, I say that with a caveat because I expected similar results to this if I used the heavy gloss gel, and that's not so much what I got. So I did a side-by-side comparison. These are both on Canson XL watercolor paper, same stencil. This is the heavy gloss gel. This is the Distress translucent paste. You will notice a difference. The inks wicked up under the paste using the heavy gloss gel. So I'll give you a little closer look so you can see it. So that is something to keep in mind if you're planning on using the gloss gel for something like this, that it's going to go underneath, and I'm not thrilled with how this one came out. So that is something to keep in mind. And I did do this one, but I wasn't thinking, and used a stencil that covered the entire thing with the translucent paste, and so there's very little of the mica spray stains showing on this one because there's just very little paper still exposed, because yeah, it's an all over coverage. That was not the brightest move. A final word about the matte paste. So this guy's the Distress Opaque paste. These two are the Ultra Matte Gel, which I expected to get similar results to the Opaque paste. And here are the two things I noticed. One, it doesn't go on quite as thick as the Opaque paste. And two, it does not like watery effects quite as much. It does not like a ton of water. I'm trying to find the spot. Here it is, where it is peeling up. You can see here, my paste is starting to peel up. It did not like the amount of water I used on it. So yeah, the whole image kind of got lost in the wash on this one. So wasn't exactly thrilled with that. I did notice when it was still wet, I could get more ink off of the top of where the paste is than I thought I would. And so it's got a lower profile than the Opaque paste. And even lower in profile is the absorbent ground, which I would have thought would have sucked up more of the ink than it actually did. Like here you see like full on white because I tapped it, I think, with a paper towel and it lifted the ink off of the absorbent ground. This has very little texture. So if you want the effect of the stencil without adding any bulk to what you're working on, the absorbent ground got really cool results. I'm kind of happy with those. I'm not sure that I'd recommend the Ultra Matte Gel, but it does give you something in between the very low, almost no texture of this and the thicker texture of this. And I suspect when I ink this up, the results are going to be similar to these guys. But yeah, so that's those guys. And I think that's everything I had to tell you about it. So there is a swatching of all the texture pastes and some examples of what they look like after you get inky. Come back on Friday and I will have a video where I'm actually doing the inking on these pieces. And if you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting!